Okay, so before I skin this object, I want to go in and just do a bit of clean house here on the model and just get everything sorted out into layers. So first thing we want to do is unfreeze everything we have. Alright, so we're going to take our model and we're going to add in a new layer, and we're just going to call this character. Alright, we'll just hide that for now so they see what we have in there. We're going to want our control objects. Okay, we're going to want do not touch. And in this layer we'll put in our IK control, our helper objects, and all our bone systems. Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to want to do now is click on our model, and we're going to add a modifier on top of this that's called skin. And what we'll be able to do is anything that's a bone, we'll skin the object to it. So we'll go to modify, add a skin modifier on top, and we can go to add. So now we have to go through our this panel here and grab any bone that's going to be used to skin this. But the reason why we named it BN is so that this process will be much quicker. Just type BN, it will select everything that we want, and we'll just control click on all the end pieces as we don't need to have them skinned. Hit select. Alright, so we turn our control objects back on. You'll see that the program's done an okay job. There's still a little bit of cleaning up that we need to do for some of this. You see we got a little bit of artifacting around the neck there. So what we'll do is we'll start cleaning up the weights on these vertices. So we'll start from our side view, and we'll start with the base, the squash base. We'll click on Edit Envelopes, and then we'll scroll down to the bottom where we have this little wrench weight tool. And just click on that and we get a little pop-up, and what we can do is the colors of the vertices represent how much influence they have, that bone that you have selected, which here we have base squash, has on those vertices. So what we want is we want all the vertices at the very bottom to be controlled 1. So if this rotates, that vertex will rotate equivalent to what that bone is rotated. So click on this. Select some vertices. I wonder why I can't. Oh, we gotta turn on vertices at the top here. So we'll select all these vertices in that row, and we're just gonna set them to 1. Okay. So I know we only want the bottom one selected, but what we can do is go on up to this root bone, and we can start telling the root bone just to influence some of these. So as the root bone influence is some of these at the bottom, they will start being taken off from the squash bone. So I'll show you in a second the difference, what happens here. So we'll go to the root bone, and we want some of this to be controlled by this bone up here. So this will be by 75, this will be by 0.5, 25.1. Okay, so you get a bit of a gradient on this bone system here. If we go back down to the squash, you'll see that we have a bit of a taper now. And I think we want the taper to be a little bit more. I don't know if we want all of this to be fully controlled. So we're going to go back up to the root. I think we'll start from here. We'll do 0.1, 0.1 again. Then we'll do this as 0.25, 0.25 again, 0.5, 0.75, and 1. Okay, so now we have a bit of a nicer gradient for that bone. So we got to do the same thing for the spine. So spine 2 should influence everything from here by 1. Okay, we're going to go back to our root bone, and we want the root bone to still influence a few up here, so we get a bit of a gradient. So we want this to be controlled by 0.75, 0.5, 0.25, and I think that's about as much influence as we want on those bones there. So we're going to go to spine 2, or spine 1, sorry, and you can see how we have a bit of a gradient here. So we're going to go to spine 2, and we know that it wants control of all these bones, right up to the neck. We'll set those to 1. I think I'm going to do the head one too. It's easier, I find, if you kind of see what the method's going on here, is I like to tell each bone what it's going to control, and then I set the gradient up, opposed to just trying to do it as I go. I find it gets everything reset to 1, opposed to working with some vertices at 0.75 and some at 2.5. Gets everything to the same number, and then we can just divvy them out onto different bones. So we'll set the head to 1, go to spine 2, and I want spine 2 to control just a little bit of the neck. So we'll just set 0.5 and set this to 2.5. This will allow the stretch, so as the head control moves up, we'll have the neck trying to hold on to just a little bit of the neck there, so it'll taper itself up. We also want spine 1 to control a little bit of these vertices here that spine 3 is controlling, or spine 2, sorry. So we're just going to select a row of them, put 7.5, 0.5, and maybe 0.25 at the top here. Actually, I think we made a mistake here. We'll go back a few steps. I want spine 1 to control a little bit of it. So this is 0.75, 0.5, point. That's where we made the mistake. We accidentally clicked the envelope tool here. And we'll set that to 0.25. Okay, so the head will control all this. It has a bit of a taper too down near the neck. Alright, we're going to have to work on the teeth now. So we want the teeth base. So we've got a bit of a flow here. I'm just kind of following it with my mouse. So it comes all the way around here. So we have a few vertices here that should actually be controlled by the head. This one here, I think it meets. So this one's a shared vertice. But those ones should be to the head. Set that to 1. We'll go back to the base. Alright, so all that's good. Controls. So same thing as we did with the spines. I know that we're on a bit of an angle, but we want all these ones here to be controlled by the base by 1. And if they're red, we know that they're already fully controlled, so I don't have to bother going in and selecting them. We can if we want, but hit 1. Okay, we want to go base 2. We want everything in this row all the way down to where this bone starts. So it starts here, so I would say this row as well. Select anything that's not pure red. Set that to 1. And we'll go down to the teeth, and looks like we didn't get everything for this second one here. Set them to 0. So they're not influenced, and then go to 2, and now they're influenced. We'll set this. All these ones here are on the very last bone, and we'll set them to 1. Go back to 2, and there we go. So you can, we don't have the gradient set up yet, but you can see that the first one controls this set. Looks like we got a few here that should be controlled by 2. Set that to 1. Let's go back to the base. Okay, so we got the base, we got the teeth, and we got the end. So let's start with the end here. We want the end to control this one here by 0.5, that row there. So we'll just grab them. And we'll set that to 0.5. We'll go to 2. And we want 2 to control this row here as well by 0.25. And we can even come down to the last row and just set that to 0.1. So very small influence, but it will help smooth it out a little bit. Go up to the top base here. We wanted to control this last row here by, say, 0.75, the next row by 0.5, and maybe 0.1 on this last row. Alright, perfect. Alright, so I know that was a bit tedious going in and setting the weights for each of the bones, but it is the most, in my opinion, the most effective way to do it. You can get the computer to do a little bit of work on it, just adjusting the envelopes and the scale, but I find just going in there and telling the computer which vertices are controlled by which is the most precise way to do it.